Hi, and welcome to another episode of A.S.K on CYC. So we have an exciting episode for you today. We're going to talk about Snapchat and Tinder. Out of all the social media apps, why did I focus and choose to talk about those two? As a society, are we growing towards a superficial nature? And as a community, are we leading towards a superficial nature? So in today's episode, we're going to discuss what these two apps can do to our human mind. So before we start the show, if there's any children present, please, the topic could be sensitive to children. So keep that in mind for all the parents out there watching. So I'd like to introduce you to our guest on today's show. We have our guest psychologist with us, Jennifer Lonji. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Nina, for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
So I chose these two apps.
Yes.
So give the audience a understanding of what they're about.
Okay, well, Snapchat is an app that users use to send photos, videos, drawings to their friends or other Snapchat users that they have on their thing. And this can be timed, some of these videos, and it just really allows people just to find a different way of connecting that I suppose people are deeming fun, exciting, and creative. Sometimes these videos only get stored for a while and you can only watch it for a couple of seconds and they self-delete. So, and with Tinder, Tinder is a new site where mutually interested people can chat online, and you swipe left or swipe right if you're interested in someone based on the way they look and their profile. And statistics actually now show that Tinder per day has 1 billion swipes. That's a lot.
Wow. Okay. So just a reminder to our viewers, if you have any questions about today's episode, please send your questions to 0416 551 292. So Jennifer, I have this little disclaimer before we start. So I have Snapchat. I've had it for almost 2 years now.
Wow.
And recently I downloaded Tinder and I've been using it for the past 4 weeks to prep myself for this show.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, this Tinder app is crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's probably one of the most superficial things I've ever seen in my entire life. And as the show progresses, we're going to look more into that.
Yes, we'll find out definitely why, yeah.
So the first question I have for you is, how do these apps impact the human mind in terms of thinking and behavior?
Well, firstly, these apps, especially Tinder, they're very based on the way you look. And everyone that's using this site looks a specific way, a particular way. They're either tall, they're very skinny, they have bright blue eyes or long blonde hair. So it fits a specific image that not everyone can fit. And what that does to the mind is that it might make you feel as if you don't fit in. And you start having low moods and you start questioning your self-worth and your self-esteem. And the behaviors that you start displaying become maladaptive because you start engaging in things that are risky. You maybe start meeting people you don't know. You start following people who might start harassing you online. And you really just endanger yourself. And you start thinking negatively. And that can cause all sorts of things like depression and anxiety. So they're just a big thing that all of these sites that it can do to the mind and the behavior that you would display. Just from simple things as, these apps, we see it as innocent, but, they carry heavy things for us humans. Yes, they do.
Okay. So I want to first look into the human psyche and see how it works. So when it comes to physical attraction, what happens to the brain?
Well, look, what we deem physically attractive is different. For example, who I find attractive and who you find attractive, of course, it will be different because we're two different people. In some countries, Western countries, we find that there's an ideal of beauty, maybe tall, well-groomed, physically symmetrical in the face. And where I come from, Africa, scarification We deem that as beautiful, and the bigger the woman, the better, which is very different to here. So when the brain picks up on something that it knows is, okay, this is what's beautiful to me, three things could happen. One is that you get this rush of dopamine, positive feelings that you feel so good because of this person that you find that you desire. And it's this euphoria. Wow, how attractive is this person? And you just want to spend your time with them and be with them. And you also have this intrusive thinking. What are they doing? What are they up to? Who are they? I want to know more, Another thing that tends to happen as well with the brain when it's physically attracted to someone is that you have this sex drive, which really pushes you to achieve sexual gratification, which could be to get with the person and achieve that motivation, what you're seeking out. And we tend to find that Tinder, out of both of these sites, promotes that more. It promotes, sexual gratification, find someone you're attracted to, meet up with them, and so forth. Another thing we find with both apps, I think, is that the brain will start having emotion motivation circuit where you're just driven to do whatever it takes to get to know that person. It could be asking them out on a date. It could be even making sure that you look presentable and you look groomed, so the person also finds you attractive, and it's a mutual thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So speaking of sexual drive and romantic love, can you conclude that these apps alter the human connection in terms of finding a relationship or forming human connections?
Well, the brain is such a fascinating thing, and it's just this mushy thing that could be altered by the slightest thing. And I think that what these apps do is that they encourage more sex than anything, and they push away romantic love. Who wants to be married nowadays? You want to be on these apps, and I think that's what's happening. Less and less people are motivated to have children or form families. So, it's getting harder, the way people are connecting. And in Japan, what statistics are showing is that more nappies are being sold for the aging population than for babies. So there's actually a decrease in how many children are even being born, especially Japan being such a technological society that uses these apps excessively. So there's more of a preference now for sexual desire than from romantic love. And that's really changing the way we're connecting as humans, because we're pushing away one thing and favouring another, where it should actually be a combination of both when you're seeking a relationship. So yes, I do.
Okay,
believe,
so apart from relationship, let's talk also about friendships.
Yeah.
I know that these social networking sites, they're unprecedented, so we've never had these in the past. This is a new thing, and we're seeing it established now, and it's only growing. So would you say that this can have an impact on the future growth of people, as in just friendships, not only relationships?
Yeah, it does. I think it does, especially for future generation, and the way we're forming friendships now are definitely different. Friendship now, it's more how many people are following you. It's not about the substance of friendship. Maybe in the past it used to be where you have that one good friend. No matter what happens, you can call them and go, oh look, my mum's died, or I just need someone to talk to. I've got exams, or I'm having problems with my faith, and being able to connect with God, and that person you can always go to and talk to. Where now people are not looking for, the quality in friendship. They're looking for the quantity. How many people are following me? Who's liking my photos? I don't care who you are. How many people are liking my photos? How many people are following me? So that really does show that friendship is changing. Friendship is almost lacking that substance that it's meant to have, and a lot is happening here. A lot is happening here,
You know what I find interesting with Tinder is some of the profiles they write here looking for a friend.
Yeah.
But all the photos are of them wearing bikinis.
Yeah.
What kind of friendship are you looking for?
I suppose when you say friend, it sounds more friendlier, and you don't seem as if, your direct intentions are simply to just get with them and do whatever. So yeah, I think it's just a way to cover up what the true intentions are. But when you use those sites, you know exactly who's going onto it, why they're there, you know. So you just have to choose, do I want to use those apps, or do I want to, you know, go old school and meet people in the community and get involved with things, meet people at church, you know. So yeah, it just
But
depends.
one should question, why am I using this app in the first place? Am I looking for love? But then you can also turn around and say, these apps are just purely physical. People are selling themselves through pictures.
But
No words, no conversation, no intellect, no emotion. So how can you be looking for love based on a person's picture?
I think, look, sometimes it's that we try to tell ourselves something so much that we believe it, but we don't at the same time. So it's almost working at a subconscious level. I really think deep down, we know that if we use these apps, this is what's going to be out there. That is what people are going to be putting out. It's going to be nudity. It's going to be about superficiality. They don't really care about how smart you are or what you are like as a person inside your personality. They care about what you look like, what you drive, or how skinny you are. Or so it's definitely superficial. And I personally believe that you wouldn't go on that website to make friends. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong. I've heard that people do say, look, I've met friends on there, and I'm just like, oh, wow, great, you know. But personally, for me, I don't see it like that. Just because of my knowledge of what that site's about, I kind of just feel like, okay, no, that's not for me. That's really not for me, yeah.
So what are you basing your friendship off? Her bikini photo?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So for me, I feel like beauty fades. You get old, and it's not really there. And I'm definitely a person who's about knowing someone and getting to know them at like a deeper level and having a strong connection with them. And I don't feel like a photo and 150 words would allow me to experience that or feel comfortable enough to say, hey, let's meet up and go for a drink.
Sure.
Yeah, that is not enough for me.
Yeah.
I need to experience you face to face. That raw human connection that we generally have of being with someone, experiencing their awe like I'm experiencing yours now. I can't get that over a screen.
You're right.
I can't.
You're absolutely right.
So how can I be friends with you? I can't decide whether you fit my friendship based on that. So, I mean, I could be different.
Okay.
I could be very different.
Look, we have a caller that just came in, so let's hear what they have to say. So welcome, caller. Welcome to... Hello, caller.
Oh, hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Please ask your question to our guest Jennifer, please.
Okay, my question is, what age do you think people should start using Snapchat?
Okay, thank you, caller.
I think, look, it differs on the person. I think you would know yourself. Personally, some kids are more mature than others, and some people, they're not so mature. So you can't really put an age on something like that. And I wouldn't want to say, okay, you have to be over 15 to use it, over 16. But I feel like if you know that you would use it appropriately, and you know that the people that you have on there are also people that you know, and they would also use the app appropriately, then by all means, use it as you would use Facebook, So as long as you know what you're getting yourself into, and you know the type of friends that you have on there, so you don't expose yourself to anything harmful or derogatory, or anything that will compromise on your self-worth and your self-esteem, or make you feel as you're not good enough, So yeah.
I think the audience need to understand that we're not here trying to tell them stop using it.
Yes, exactly.
I think we're here to help
Just
them
highlight,
understand what the effects are of these apps, and what's the purpose of using these apps, whether it's good
or
bad.
Yeah. Look, it just depends how you use it. I don't want to give a specific age. I hope that really helps,
Sure, thank you. Just a reminder to our audience, please, the phone number is 0416 551 292. If you have a phone call, you want to speak to our lovely psychologist, please give us a call or just send us a text and we'll answer your questions live on the show tonight. So you were speaking about superficiality. So I want to ask, are there some personality traits that are more susceptible to that are frequently using these apps and thus becoming more and more superficial?
I think, look, there's different combinations of the way you think, the way you behave that would contribute to whether you become superficial or not. And your environment plays a huge part. You know, your circle of friends and who you choose to talk to, where you choose to go would all contribute to that. Personality, for me, I think, you know, I don't think there's a specific one type personality trait that would. But research out there tends to show that people who are extroverted, so that's loud, you know, confident, bold, tend to have more followers on Facebooks and these types of apps because they, you know, put things out there, they put photos, they update their statuses regularly, they're updating their videos of what they're up to and what they're doing. So because they have that large following, they keep feeding into that by always constantly saying, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. And that might almost put them in a place where they always need validation from people of what they're doing. So yeah, they could fall into the trap of, you know, becoming very superficial because you're seeking validation from others and you're seeking approval and you always want to be shown. And so, yeah, it's a tricky one, but that's what research shows, that extroverted people, you know, that's what tends to happen. And conscientious people don't really use the sites much, and introverted people, which is the opposite of extroverted, tend to have less of these apps. So they will either have Tinder and not Snapchat, or they will have Snapchat and not Tinder, and then they would have less friends or less amount of people they connect with.
Sure. Look, in saying that, these social media apps, in a way, create a kind of surveillance around the person,
Yeah.
especially these extroverts you're talking about.
Yeah.
So in saying that, particularly Snapchat, I want to talk about Snapchat.
Yeah.
Because
That's a big surveillance.
because it's an insight of people's lives, and especially if they're frequent users, where they're always posting stuff and to their story, and you're always getting an insight on what they're doing in their life. So could you say this invasion of privacy could have an effect or alter the way this individual may react?
Well, look, I think what Snapchat really does, it's always a constant, you know, update of what other people are doing. You're always like flooded by 10-second videos or even longer of, you know, what X is doing on a holiday in Dubai, what Y is doing at university campus. And it always makes you feel as if, okay, why am I not doing these things? Or, you know, so it really kind of could put you in a sticky situation of thinking that you're not doing much with your life at all. And you might have jealousy and resentment towards those people. And it's not something that you're consciously doing, that you want to have it, but somehow you do. It's just almost, it just happens. So when you meet with these people again, or you're socially interacting with them again, maybe you meet up at school or, you know, at church, you know, somehow, somewhere in your heart, you're maybe jealous that they were up to something without you, or they were up to something that you haven't done, because you're just constantly in their life at every single moment. Yeah, so that surveillance, it does a lot.
Sure. We have one more question before we go on break. So, just on the topic on superficiality, can extreme forms of superficiality lead to psychiatric disorders such as narcissistic personalities?
Yes, it does. It does because a narcissistic personality disorder really is just a person who is so like obsessed with having people tell him or her that they are great. So by constantly uploading what they're doing, constantly posting videos and of, you know, who they are, and trying to make out that their life is, you know, the best in the world. So that tends to happen a lot. And I just want to read you something, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
It's very interesting. I thought I'll bring it here. It's the symptoms of narcissistic personality disorders. And these are outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And we as psychologists, we follow these symptoms, and that's how we would come to diagnose someone. So I'm just going to read you some of these symptoms, and maybe you can tell me if you identify with them or people you know who use these sites. So one is A person would have a grandiose sense of self-importance, so they always exaggerate their achievements and talents. Is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with special or high people. Requires excessive admiration. Has a very strong sense of entitlement. Is exploitative of others, for example, takes advantages of others to achieve his or own ends. Lacks empathy. Unwilling to recognize or identify with others' feelings and needs for others. Is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. And regularly shows arrogance, naughty behaviors or attitude. So, Mina, a person only needs 5 of those symptoms to be diagnosed. So you can really see a correlation between how narcissistic people or people who are not even diagnosed can become narcissistic, because these apps, that's what they're in many ways they're promoting. You know, you are great, you are important, you know, keep uploading and keep doing this, keep showing us your life. And that really plays on the mind, and it plays on your perception of the self and how you fit in society at that present moment. So, yeah.
Okay. We're going to go for a quick break and we'll come back. We'll continue our discussion.
Thank you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you to our audience for tuning in. So please, the phone number is 0416 551 292. Please send your questions, and when we come back from the break, we'll answer your questions live on the show tonight. And if you're daring enough, give us a call and speak to our psychologist here tonight. Thank you.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.
Hi, and welcome back to the episode Ask on CYC, where today we're talking about Snapchat and Tinder and what it does to our human mind. So we're going to get back into it as go back with the guest, Jennifer Lonji, who is our psychologist for tonight. So we talked earlier about being attracted and the sexual drive and how it can cause us to be less rational. So in that state of mind, using these apps like Tinder and Snapchat and having this less rational approach because of this attraction, because of this euphoric feeling that we have, can people be susceptible to making decisions that are regretful? Yes. For example, on Snapchat, send an inappropriate picture of themselves to a person who's asked of them. Or for example, on Tinder, when they're trying to match and they're not getting any matches, and finally they get a match, but it turns out to be a sex worker trying to sell
sex.
Yeah. So having this, our mind to reach this state where we become less rational, you know.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Well, look, what first happens is that there seems to be a cultural norm with these apps. And once there's a cultural norm, a taboo disappears. For us, it's a taboo to post naked things or show naked things or illicit sex or something like that. So we find that completely a taboo, but these apps are making it socially acceptable. So, you know, the rationing behind it is, I'm doing something it's fine, no one's going to judge me, everyone else is doing it. And we're modeling behavior, you know, especially young kids and, you know, vulnerable people, when they're constantly being exposed to that, especially with the media as well, that constant exposure, we start to feel like these things are normal in our society. So the brain is like, yeah, great, this is the way to behave. This is the society that I live in, and my society deems that what I'm doing is appropriate. So we don't think that our actions are irrational. We think that they're irrational based on the context of these apps. And it's a shame because, you know, kids are growing up thinking that this is what I need to do. I'm going to aspire to be like this model that, you know, posts things on these apps. I just want to be just like her. And, you know, it's just really sad to see, Mina, yes.
I remember when Snapchat first came out that people used to post inappropriate photos to each other. And it was up until these photos leaked out and websites and Facebook groups started to post these photos, and I think people have become more cautious now.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we are being told that these photos and videos that we're sending, magically disappears after 10 seconds and it's nowhere. Do we truly believe that an image that's been recorded and stored will self-delete? They must be going somewhere. So, and maybe now when we're young, it's kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just do that for fun, but we're going to grow up one day, we're going to be married and we're going to have kids. Are we going to be able to explain these to our kids? That, hey, dad sent this video and somehow it's magically come back again, So we need to really be conscious of the decisions that we take now, because it would really affect us when we're older. And it's just, for me, I do not believe it's an appropriate way to behave.
Sure. We got a question that just came from an audience member.
Yeah.
They're asking, should parents supervise their children's use of Snapchat? To what extent?
Look, I think parents should always provide supervision, especially when children are using the internet and social networking, because with what's going on, with people hiding their identity, with paedophiles using, on sites, I'm not here to scare anyone. I'm here just to point out and highlight that, there are people out there who do not have good intentions when they're using these apps. So when our kids are saying, hey, mum and dad, I'm on Snapchat, okay, mum and dad need to be screwed on that my child has a good intention, but maybe other people don't. So just let your kids know that if anyone sends you something or you see something that you do not like, come and tell us and we'll help you to delete that person or remove them away, or, we can talk about it and stuff like that. If your child has Tinder, okay, a big chat needs to happen, a big family conversation needs to happen.
That's actually the next question that just came in.
Yes.
They're asking, what are the benefits of using Tinder, if any? There's a million answers going through my head right now, because I've been using this app for the past few weeks and it's ridiculous. It's the stupidest, most superficial app or most superficial thing ever created.
Like, I don't want to talk, say, how bad this site is, this app is, because I haven't used it. So my answer would always be no. But some people have told me who are traveling around Australia or on holiday, or they don't know anyone. So they come, to a foreign country and they go on Tinder as a way to make friends with the same sex. And I'm like, okay, so the same sex, they're motivated to, meet another girl just to have a girl to go shopping with. And she was like, yeah. I was like, okay, so maybe that might be some form of, benefits, because some people are socially shy. So they can't meet people face to face. So the internet or these apps is a portal for them to find a way to make friends, because having friends are so important, and having any type of relationships for humans is important for us to feel happy, to feel like, we're doing things with our life, to be proactive and to self-actualize. We need to have those connections.
But isn't that the issue?
Yeah.
Aren't these apps making us less social? Are these apps, pushing us away from naturally going to meet a girl? For example, in our community, when we meet people at church.
Yeah.
But using these apps, we are shy at first. But the longer we use apps like this, it's just pushing us away from the natural process of meeting someone.
Yeah, so the more that we use these sites, what's actually happening is the reverse. Before, we used to be socially confident. We'll go out somewhere and we see someone that we like, or we see a group of girls that, have same interests as us. We walk up to them, we're like, oh, hey, how are you? When we introduce ourselves. And we start a conversation based on shared mutuality and, shared interest and shared belief or political views. But I think the more that we use this site, the more scared, am I still that confident to go up to someone? So we become more and more shy, more and more reserved. And, I don't see people going up to anyone nowadays, especially at a restaurant. The worst scene that I always see is a group of people sitting together having a meal and everyone's on their phone. Everyone's on their phone, not talking to the people that's around them, but they're on their phone. So that really shows us about where we are now as a society with these apps, and where we possibly could be if they keep going the way they are. I think it's something we really need to address now as a community and be aware, okay, these apps do have consequences. they have consequences, and they can be very detrimental.
That leads me to my next question. How do these apps restrict the human mind in terms of growth and affect their ability to self-actualize?
Well, the brain and humans, we're social creatures. You think about just things that we naturally do, like we can talk, we have body languages, to express ourselves and communicate with one another. And it restricts that. So it makes us almost unhuman, because even though I can talk, I'm typing. I'm not talking anymore, I'm typing. So even things like language, my understanding of language and all of that is compromised. And it, to really self-actualize as a person, you need to really look and go, okay, what is my full potential? Like, who am I? Am I happy with the person that I am? But you can't do that because you're constantly bombarded with images and videos and photographs of other people's life and what other people are doing. So how do you truly find who you are? Because, hey, I want to be like them. Oh, I want to model and be like them. Or, so you lose sight of who you are, so you can't grow as a person because you don't know who you are anymore. You want to be whoever you're seeing on these apps. You don't want to be you anymore. And that is a very, very scary, especially for adolescents at that critical age of development where they're trying to find out, who am I? You can't answer that, so and they start having developmental problems. And we're seeing that a lot now. We're really, really seeing that a lot.
Sure. We've got a question that just came in from
Yes.
the audience. They're asking, what can parents do during the children's upbringing to prevent this being an issue during their teenage years or later?
It depends what's the issue. What's the issue of these apps?
Well, look, maybe low self-esteem
Yeah.
could lead to a person using these apps.
Yeah.
Low confidence.
Yeah, look, we do find, research does find that people with, that have social anxiety, low self-esteem, do gravitate more to using these sites, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone that comes to use these sites have those predispositions. I think the one thing that parents should always do is always shower their children with love and affection, and always tell them, I love you for who you are. And, I want you to be the best person you can be. Life is not a competition. You don't have to compete with your friends. Life is not a race. You take things step by step and a way that you feel comfortable with. So then when children do come to using these apps and they are exposed to all of these people's lives and what everyone's doing and how they look like, they won't fall into a trap of feeling depressed and feeling, okay, who am I? Who do I want to be? Because they already have that, confirmation from their home, from people that matter most, their family, their parents. So yes.
Yeah. Okay, so going back about the issues of these apps, do you reckon it's more of an emotional thing where the emotions get the better of them and they become less rational, pushing them to keep using the app? Or could it be a form of addiction? Or both?
I think definitely it's a combination of both. Just because when you use these sites, it becomes addictive because you're like, oh, let me check what's going on, let me check my update, let me click onto one video on Snapchat, and then you've realised another friend's posted a video, so you keep clicking over and over and over again, and you kind of want to find out, okay, what's the meaning of life, what's going on, and so it can be very addictive. And at the present moment, for the person using it, the user of the app, they don't see their behaviour as irrational. At that moment, it seems like the rational thing to do, to keep checking what other people are doing, rather than concentrating on what I'm doing as a person. So it's a combination of both, and the user is unaware of what's going on. It's only in hindsight when they might look back and go, wow, an hour has been gone, and all I've been doing is I've been on this app. Has that been an emotional thing that's driving me to be on that, or has that been an addiction? So,
I think the creator of the app utilised this opportunity because
yes.
I read up that when this app first came out, it was free to use and you can swipe unlimited amount of times. But now, I think you get 20 swipes, then it asks you to pay for a monthly fee where you can get unlimited swipes.
It's all about money. It's not, these apps are not, they're not created as a way to go, hey, I want to give you more friends and more relationships and, you know, this great sense of self-worth and achievement. It's a money-making scheme.
But clearly, if they're giving you that first 20 swipes and get your mind hooked onto it,
Exactly.
then charge you a fee for
you,
further swipes.
you will pay.
Clearly, this app is addictive, and the creator of the app knows that,
Yeah,
and is utilizing that.
Of course. These apps, I mean, look, once any behavior or any routine is constantly repeated, it falls into the trap of being quite addictive, you know, because us as humans, we like routine. We like, okay, I know what I'm doing for breakfast, I know what I'm doing for lunch. We like that, having that routine in our life. If a routine comes that every 20 minutes or half an hour, or for some people even 5 minutes, I need to check my phone, that becomes a constant routine. And humans, it's very hard to break out of a routine. We all know that. It's very hard. So these, you know, app managers or app creators have found a way to get us hooked and then charge us, you know, to keep using something that we or users now, you know, love and enjoy, you know. So, yeah, it's a shame.
I read a review where someone said that after downloading the app, he said it was like cocaine of the mind. That's his words. Yeah, that's his words. And I think he started paying for this for Tinder.
Wow.
Because he compared that to cocaine
Wow.
of the mind. So in your professional opinion, how do these apps become so addictive that they are likened to drugs?
Okay, so with drugs or any illicit substance like ice, marijuana, alcohol, what happens to the brain is that the brain associates the stimulus, which is, you know, the substance, with a positive reward. So every time I take, the person takes Coke or they take ice or they use alcohol, they feel good. And they get this surge of dopamines and, you know, great feelings in their body telling you this is great feeling. And then you're motivated and driven to always have that feeling, you know, repeated over and over and over again. And in many ways, why that person said the app made him feel like if he, you know, had taken Coke, it was addictive, was because maybe when he first started to use the app, it was very good for him. He had a positive response and he liked it. It made him feel happy, and, you know, all these endorphins and natural positive feel-goods were being released. And when you're off the site, you go, oh, I want to recreate that. So you keep going. You might not recreate it, but you'll keep trying over and over again in the belief that one day it would feel as good as it felt when you first used it. So that's why maybe they may have said that, yes.
Sure. I got a question that came in from the audience. They're asking, what are the dangers of Snapchat if not used correctly? Would you ever recommend it?
I do use Snapchat myself, and I use it, and I've got my friends and my family, and I'm aware that of what some things are put out there, and the people who I have on my Snapchat are, they wouldn't do anything, you know, like post anything stupid, so I'm very confident in that. So I would only recommend it if you are confident that the people that you would invite to see your videos or for you to view their videos would also not misuse it or use it in a way that would, you know, exploit you or make you feel bad or make you see things that you do not want to see. So have it, but just make sure that it's controlled, yes.
There's actually a new feature on Snapchat now where you can add people that are nearby to you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I found
it's
that
turning like Tinder.
I found that in the settings.
Wow.
Which is pretty scary.
See, I didn't know that. I didn't even know that has, well, that just changes the whole matrix of the app, doesn't it?
Yeah, so we should be careful. And like you said earlier, where did these pictures go?
Yeah, exactly. That no one's actually asking that question. Like, it must go somewhere. I mean, okay, there's a cloud, but this cloud is storing something somewhere, and The worst thing is you don't want to be in a really good place in your life and then all of a sudden something that you posted 2-3 years ago that, you know, you were irrational, you had no logic behind it, you just sent it, suddenly pops up in your life at the wrong place at the wrong time. It can destroy everything. It can destroy where you're going. And you've got to think, if you're working as well as a young person, you want to climb up and, you know, be respected. So if you've got all of these, you know, negative things out there, or photos that you regret, or videos that you regret, and then suddenly people at work are seeing it, or, you know, you just have to be very, very careful.
Sure. Look, I got one final question for you
Yes.
before we end the show. And it's going to be from a Christian perspective. So I'd like to end it with a Christian note. So the question I have, as Christians, one of the commandments is not to commit adultery. So even just looking at a person and lusting for them in your heart is a form of adultery. So in these apps, people promote themselves using minimal clothing, like we discussed earlier,
Yes.
and suggestive looks. So in retrospect of this, what are your thoughts on these apps promoting adultery?
Okay. So look, I'm a Snapchat user myself. I'm not so much on Tinder, but I think that these apps don't actually explicitly, you know, encourage adultery or promote it in many ways. And like I know there's an app out, Ashley Medicine.
That's a website.
That's a website. Okay,
yeah.
So things, some websites and other social networking things, they are more explicit with, okay, we want to promote adultery. Snapchat
I want to focus on the definition of adultery.
Yeah.
Just looking at a uncovered body.
Then it does, because these sites, they do it in such a way where they disguise themselves. A quote from the Bible says, you know, the devil disguises himself as an angel of light. And I feel like these apps, they're, you know, they have hidden meanings behind them. And people using them, you know, they're conscious of what's being put out there, but they feel, oh no, it won't affect me. So subconsciously, they know it will, but consciously they try to think it won't, and it does. These apps can be, you know, the devil in disguise, you know, because you just don't know. And, you know, as Christians as well, we should really, you know, look at the way that we're behaving and making sure that we're following the word of God. Yeah.
And don't let these apps control our mind.
Exactly, and do not let these apps control our mind. So you just have to be very aware of what these apps are, you know, who's using it, you know, what things they're putting out and how it can affect you. And the way it can affect you, will that compromise on your Christianity and your belief? And yes, it can. It really can. So you really have to decide here, yeah.
Sure. So I'd like to end with a verse from 1 Corinthians 6, verse 12. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not helpful. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. So that could be a good conclusion to what we're just talking about.
Beautiful. Yes, it really does capture it all.
I'd like to thank you very much for having me on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for your insight on this topic.
Thank you.
It's been great.
It was very good to share it. Thank you.
And thank you to our viewers out there who tuned in and watched the show. And thank you for the questions you've sent in and the caller who called in. So just a reminder, next week we will not have an episode as it's the feast of Nowruz, the Coptic New Year. So we will have a rerun instead of a show, and we'll see you the following week. I am Mina Ibrahim from your CYC studios in Sydney. Good night and God bless.
CYC, Christian Youth Channel.
The name CYC is very nice name. Nice name for here. CYC. Musical name. And the efforts made by His Grace Bishop Marcos of Shobra Al-Khema and Father Bishoy with him, and all the workers in this channel make good work for the youth who speak in English. This is good channel and we need it, and also we need other channels to cover